Hi, welcome. This is the CaddyInfo.com Cadillac Conversations. We do these on, hi, welcome. I just got another indication that it had gone live, but we do these on Thursday nights. We talk about all things Cadillac. If you like to talk about Cadillac and you want to be live with us, then signal me somehow on Google Plus, or let me know, or text me if you have my contact info, and let me know that that's what you want to do, and I'll figure out how to. You do need a Google Plus account, because what the Google Plus account lets you do is it lets me invite you. And so you need the Google Plus account so that I can invite you so that you can be on with me. And Vinny, I have Vinny with me from CadillacCountryClub.com.
How you doing?
Vinny's been with us before. He's a big Cadillac fan and out there on the web. And so if you haven't been to CadillacCountryClub.com, then stop in there too, please. So we're on Thursday night. So Vinny, what is going on with your Cadillacs? Tell me what Cadillacs you're driving these days.
Actually, I am back in New York City in the house that we're rebuilding from the hurricane. And it's funny, what I'm driving out here is a Chevy Cruze.
Which is a nice little car.
Yeah, it's a nice little blind spot is what I call it. There's every single place around the car driving is a blind spot. So, but when I go back to Arizona in a few weeks, I'm going to be picking something up. I'm debating on an older Escalade because I'm going to need to be driving across country with stuff.
Yes.
Or it could be a Yukon or something like that. I haven't decided yet. I'll just wait to see what deals are going on. So
you're going back to Arizona and then you got to go back to New York again?
I'm going to be going back and forth across the country 3 or 4 times.
Wow. So I think Dallas is in between Arizona and New York. So when you come through Dallas, call me.
Okay. We can do lunch.
We can go do lunch or dinner or something. Yeah, exactly. And at least we'll have you at a Cadillac while you're in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I've been going to a lot of car shows while I was here in New York, and I've taken so many pictures of Cadillacs in the last couple of weeks. It's crazy.
I've seen some of that.
Yeah.
So has that got you sold? But you said you have to have something that'll go 2,000 miles at a sitting, so that eliminates some of the Cadillacs, right?
Yeah. Plus, I'm always going to be. Well, it eliminates DLR for sure. Right. Unless I stop at your house and charge it overnight for,
Well, no. You can still put gas in it. It's just got to go gas station to gas station. It doesn't have the Tesla problem where. Did you see that notice this week in the mail where Tesla asked owners to stop supercharging their cars?
Supercharging their cars, yeah. I was really surprised by that. Pay $100,000 for a car, but don't supercharge them at our places.
And what it was is, so Tesla has these special high-speed charging stations. And so what the intent was is they wanted to signal people, if you have time to charge at home, would you please do that? And let's reserve the high-speed charging stations for people who are trying to travel long distances with their Tesla. So let's give them preference because they're trying to go state to state.
Right, and people were leaving their cars even though they were charging.
Oh, really?
Charged. Yeah, that was the problem that they were having. It was like 10 charge things at the car, and each car was already charged, but the owner was nowhere around.
Yeah, so that's just wrong. But the way it came across.
Yeah, they didn't write that very well.
Yeah, the way it came across to the owners was, we don't want you to, even people that hadn't been charging got these notices saying, yeah, don't charge so much, thanks.
Right.
And so, that was a nightmare.
I don't know who put that letter out, but it looked like Vinny from Brooklyn wrote it.
I don't think they're with the Tesla company anymore, unfortunately.
No, I don't think so either.
They're available to help you move now if you need somebody.
I got the message. You got the message of what they were trying to do, but I don't think the Tesla people who own the car actually.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But yeah, the ELR, you wouldn't have that problem. Although the ELR is a true subcompact, right? So I wouldn't want to move from Arizona to New York in an ELR.
Yeah, that would eliminate. How far can you go in an ELR with gasoline anyway? Gas station to gas station.
With gasoline, I think it's over 500 miles.
500? Okay.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was less. I was thinking it was under 100 actually.
No, well, it's 41 miles, but then it's got, an 8-gallon tank, and it gets 40 miles to the gallon or something. So it's got a pretty good range that way. Mike, welcome.
Hello.
And Mike, I think you've been on before when Vinny was on, but Vinny's our friend from New York. He runs CadillacCountryClub.com, and and another website too that I always fail to mention.
Yeah, caddychat.com.
CaddyChat.com.
It's been lacking in detail, so.
and Mike is an XLR-V owner, and so he and 7 other GM and miscellaneous cars, 6
Cool.
other GM and miscellaneous cars. But Mike's been good about logging in, so welcome, Mike.
Nice to meet you.
You too, Vinny.
And can you hear us okay?
I hear you fine.
Oh, good. And yeah, you're early to be late.
Yeah, early late. Oh, I was in here once again. I can't get on. I figured it out.
Oh, no. Well, good. Well, there's always the link in the CaddyInfo forum, and you can go to my profile and find the link if nowhere else. And then I send you invitations, so if you find the message bell on Google+, then you can find it that way. I got a note from one of the guys on the XLR forum, say XLR-net, or it's XLR something -net. What's the XLR forum?
Right, that's it, XLR-net.
XLR-net. So one of the guys saying, well, I see, because when the deal in Kansas fell through, then I posted a thing on the XLR.net saying, hey, I'm getting ready to buy an XLR, so I'm shopping for one, so if somebody has one for sale, let me know. So one of the guys sent me a note today saying, I see that you already bought an XLR, but I've got an XLR-V for sale, so if you want to deal on an XLR-V, then contact me. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. Thanks.
When did you buy an XLR? I wasn't aware of that.
A week, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Oh, great.
I was shopping for one for a bit, and I found one locally that they had posted on eBay, and I went over and looked at it. And the way I've zoned this in is I said, if I could find an XLR-V, then I'd be willing to pay a certain budget for that. And if I could find an XLR, I was looking for a 7, 8, or 9, an XLR, then I would pay, a lower amount for that, but that would leave a little more money in my Cadillac budget for when I need to replace my STSV. Okay. And so this one was a normally aspirated XLR, a 2007 in the Xenon Blue. That the Xenon Blue is like a bright, I don't know what color. Anyway, it's an attractive blue.
I seen it at the auto show when it was here.
Good. So after we'd reached agreement, I had to wait a minute for the check to come in. After I got hold of the car, then it was having a traction EBCM traction control and StabiliTrak light. So I had it over to the dealer, and then it took them some time to get the right part in and get a part in that worked. They got a part in, but then it didn't work, and they had to wait to get another part in. And I was out of town anyway. But anyway, so I finally got the car home and in the garage, and yeah, I've been running tests on it now. For the blog, and getting to take it out to dinner and to church and having fun with it, and so I'm having a big time. But yeah, Mike kept telling me I've got to get an XLR-V because now that I'm used to the STSV, I wouldn't want the regular XLR. So, but
on it, you'd just be disappointed in performance.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm perfectly happy with because I was getting it as a weekend car and a convertible, and I don't have to have every one of my cars be a race car. Although that's nice, good, but it doesn't have to be. And I would have been happy to get an XLR-V in the right pay range, like in the right price range, like if the one in Kansas had worked out. But they were inviting me up to look at it. They had it priced the right way. It had the right number of miles. It looked to be in the right condition, and they sold it while they were talking to me.
Wow.
But it wasn't like, look out, we're about to sell it. Do you want to make an offer? It was, yeah, go ahead and come Friday. But then when I contacted them to make, I'm not getting in my car until you tell me you have the car for sale, and it's going to be there when I get there. And they said, yeah, we sold it. So. Wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be. And I still think one of the other local dealerships, they don't even have a car. I mean, they were advertising a car. I called and said, I'm going to come test drive the car. Are you ready to show it? They said, yes. I said, I'll be there in an hour. I headed that way. They called me back in the car and said, oh, we sold the car. But they're still advertising the same car. So that makes me think there's no car. Now, Vinny, I was laughing with Mike, one of the previous calls. This may be a tip for people like you and me that want to get more traffic to our websites.
Yeah.
Is you start advertising all kinds of Cadillacs for sale and just link it back to your site. Now, the Attorney General may come fuss at you, but apparently it's a good link bait for used car lots. Is you just advertise cars you don't got, and then hope people show up to look at them and sell them something else.
Nice. We just sold it every time.
Every time. Sorry, we just sold that one. You want to look at a Corvette? I got a Corvette, or whatever I've got this week.
Or you make a post in the forum. This is what we got for sale, and then the next post is up, just sold. 3 minutes later.
Yeah. Or in my case, I'll just make a post that says, wouldn't you like to buy an XLRV? XLRV for sale. And then when you click on the thing, it's just, yeah, wouldn't it be nice to buy an XLRV? Here's all the features. Da-da-da.
So mine giving me trouble today. I opened the trunk, doing my cleaning, and now it won't shut. It's just sitting there with the trunk open.
Now, I had read a couple of things about that. Does it say what's going on, what it thinks the problem is? What did your Tech 2 say?
I haven't hooked it up yet.
Oh.
The instrument panel says trunk ajar, but it acts like the buttons aren't getting any information. It acts like
the trunk is not getting an electrical connection?
That's what it seems like to me. Might be something to look at tomorrow, although I have plans for tomorrow.
Now, I hope the car was in a good place to have the trunk open, like that beautiful garage you linked.
Yeah, there's no good place, but it is inside.
Oh, good.
I had to move it over. It was on the lift, after I was cleaning it, and then that's where the trunk was up. So I had to move it over with the trunk out so I could get the other car on the list.
Yeah, so yours is a 2006, and has it had a trunk issue in the past?
No. Well, the top issue, which it didn't do the trunk or the top or anything when that happened.
Now, what is this garage or place that you linked? Is that your garage, or is that your workplace, or what is that spot?
Yeah,
I was really jealous.
That's my shop outside my house.
So this
I work on my.
So if you guys can see my screen now, this is the shot that we were talking about. So he's got this beautiful shop with a lift, and he was showing us he's polishing his XLRV and his other Cadillac, Seville. But very nice. Yeah, I was very jealous about the shop. And so, but the car's in there, stopped with the truck, truck up. There. Now, how would you tell? So I guess the next thing would be if you put the lights on, do the tail lights on the trunk light up? Because that would tell you if the whole trunk has lost power, right?
Well, I don't know. I haven't tried. I started it and moved it over, and I tried the button inside, button on the remote, and the button on the lid. None of them do anything.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I was just trying to think where I would start with diagnosing it. So Vinny, the trunk on these are completely automated because, right, as you remember, the XLR, the trunk would open up and then it folds up a panel and then the roof goes up and down. So even when you open the trunk using the touch control or using the remote, the trunk opens up kind of powered up, and then you push a button to close it. And so once it got open, then it's not closing. So
could a wire be pinched in there, possibly?
Yeah, I'm wondering if a wire's not making connection somewhere. I haven't investigated it all yet.
Yeah, like the regular Cadillac had, some years where the issue was that because there was a flex the cord coming into the trunk has to make a turn right there where the trunk opens, and it would flex enough times over time that right there where it flexed, then it would become shaky. But I don't know with the XLR whether, how the wiring's routed there. But I think that's what I would guess to look at first has the whole trunk lost power or just the opening and closing?
Right.
So in other words, if none of the taillights come on, then that would suggest to me that the whole bundle's come unplugged.
Yeah, that would be a bigger issue.
Yeah, as opposed to just the up and down's not working. But the down won't work if it thinks something's in the way either, right? So if the sensors are indicating that... I
don't know if it has that. I know it won't... the top won't go up and down if that partition's not in its secured, but I don't think that affects the trunk up and down at all.
Well, the other thing I've read, though, and same thing on XLR-net, is people talking about the trunk wouldn't even open if the cargo partition was not in place. They were having the reverse problem of what you're having, where they couldn't get the trunk to open at all because something had gotten discombobulated.
Right. I think it says top not secure or something when that's loose.
Well, yeah, it actually says the cargo partition's not in the right place, but when it won't open the top, and I guess that's what they were trying to say is they couldn't put their top up, they couldn't put their top down because the cargo partition was not in place properly.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, post up once you know more about that, because I'm going to have to get into that lore of what are the things that can go wrong with the top and the trunk, and how do you undo them, besides get Mike to come down with his Tech 2 and fix your top for you.
If Mike figures out how to operate the Tech 2.
Well, yeah, I think that's pretty, well, no, there is some lore around that. And now, how did you get the right program for your Tech 2? Because you got to go into like the GM subscription service to get the current calibrations and so on for it, right?
It came with well, I don't know what you call it, a deal that you plug into it. It came with it when I bought it, another $20 or something.
So it came with like a CD for the...
No, with like a SD card, only much bigger. I don't know what you call it.
A USB card. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's in there.
So that's a whole nother story right there, isn't it? As you learn more about your Tech 2, so that you can figure out why your truck won't close.
Right. I don't know much about it.
Now, do you have the manuals for your car?
No. Oh, well, I have a CD. And
okay.
I really don't think it's all in there, but there's stuff in there. Yeah. Like I said, I haven't opened it up and investigated yet.
All right. Well, I'm interested. As I say, I'm interested to see how you sort that out. Now, one of the things the head of Cadillac keeps saying is that Cadillac makes a significant contribution to GM's total profits, and that he wants Cadillac to be shown financially separately from GM, so that whenever GM makes its financial statements quarterly, then they'll say this much income was from Cadillac and this much, and so what do you guys think about that?
It sounded like that's definitely what he's going to do. There's no question about that. I don't know how much influence he has on GM to be able to do that, though. That's the $1 million question.
So I was interested because Fiat does that with their different sub-companies. They were saying Alfa Romeo now, they're going to report them independently as they do Mercedes, Maserati, and Ferrari. And so this may not be that unusual for car companies to do, where you actually say how much income or debt is caused by each one of your marks.
What's the purpose of that? Investors? They surely don't invest in different divisions.
I think he's wanting to communicate I think he's wanting to tell a better story about Cadillac. People look at Cadillac and they say, well, you're only selling 300,000 cars a year, and you should be selling 500,000 cars a year. so you're not doing that well. And he wants to tell the other story about, look, half of, or a third of GM's profits are coming from Cadillac. And so we're doing great, selling 300,000 cars a year. We're making money hand over fist. And if we can move that from 300,000 cars a year to 500,000 cars a year, then we'll be making money hand over hand. I think that's the story he wants to tell is, yeah, we could do things better, but look, we're making a ton of money right now.
I guess I'm curious what's the point of that in any case. For him to get a raise, or really, I don't know why he would, other than he wants people to know his company, his division is doing well.
Well, one point, he's trying to change the cachet of Cadillac. And so I think he's thinking that if I can change the Cadillac, the way people think about Cadillac, so if instead of thinking, Cadillac back in the 70s sold 300,000 cars a year and that was their heyday, now they're barely hanging on. If he changed that story to where you said, Cadillac's making a ton of money for GM, they have brand new engineered products coming out and things are going great, then Cadillac would have more cachet.
I assume that would turn into more people wanting to buy the vehicles too, wouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I can see it.
Now, I think that's the argument. I don't know if that's going to, I think that there's a certain brand of BMW fan that's only going to buy BMWs and Mercedes fan that's only going to buy Mercedes, and you're not going to lure them into Cadillac by being more like BMW or more like Mercedes. The way you lure people to Cadillac is to be more like Cadillac, which is kind of the way they're going with the CT6 and the upcoming CT8, is make bigger cars that are actually lighter than smaller cars, still have tremendous power and opulent luxury. And so now the other place I don't understand, though, is Cadillac doesn't compete straight up with the Europeans because GM has luxury cars in Chevrolet and luxury cars in Buick and luxury cars in GMC, not just in Cadillac. And so GM doesn't say, let me show you my whole portfolio of luxury cars and compare those with BMW, right? They don't say, hey, I sold 400,000 trucks for more than $50,000 a piece. How does that compare with your 12,000 3 Series sales? And so I never have been clear on whether Cadillac and whether GM should combine Cadillac, Buick, and anything that costs more than $50,000 into one label, or whether they're intentionally doing that so they always seem like an underdog.
I don't know. I'm at a loss for it too. I don't see the benefit.
So I get that Buick is a huge label in China. For whatever reason, the Chinese associate Buick with luxury, and they want Buicks. And now GM's going to be making more Buicks in China and so on. But I think what I would do is, in the United States, I wouldn't have any Buicks in the United States. I would consolidate Buick and Cadillac, and in China, I would sell Buicks. But I would sell no more Buicks in the United States. I would move all those SUVs that Buick's got. Buick's got like 3 of the factory SUVs. I would put a Cadillac label on the front of them. Or for the first 2 years, I would have them Buick by Cadillac and make Buick a sub-brand of Cadillac, and then I would get rid of Buick altogether. And bring those Buick, because I can't have entry-level Cadillacs because they impinge on the Buick pricing. The top-level Buicks are in the high 30s, right? And so I can't have a fully equipped $30,000 Cadillac because, oh no, I'll steal sales from Buick.
That's true. I never thought about it that way.
The Cadillac doesn't even want that range right now because Buick's covering that ground. So they're saying, I'm going to move into the 50 to 150 range, and that's where Cadillac belongs.
So Buick should have been the global brand then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but part of the problem there is Buick's not selling where they need to be. I mean, they're doing better than they were, and they're getting more regard, and they're doing a great job of TV marketing. But Buick should be selling twice as many Buicks as Cadillac sells Cadillacs, and they're not there.
What's the difference right now in Cadillac sales in China between the ATS and the entry-level Buick? That's a good...
I don't know that answer.
I know the ATS is selling over there like crazy.
The ATSs are doing well, is what you said?
Are doing very well in China,
right.
Yeah.
And they're bringing on Chinese production, I know, for the SRX. I'm not sure on the ATS whether they're making those in China or not. The Chinese are very good about protecting their markets, which is another lesson for the United States. But basically, they heavily tax a car that's not made in China.
Right.
So if you want to sell cars in China, you have to make them in China. If you want to sell a lot of cars in China, you have to make them in China.
So the total opposite of what we have here.
Yeah, the total opposite. The total opposite of our open markets here.
Yeah.
And so now that said, I am happy with our car prices in the United States. The competition has actually held car prices down, relatively speaking, to where what we pay for a car today is actually pretty good, right? I mean, and by that I mean a CTS in the United States sells for, so if it sells for $60,000 here, it sells for 60,000 pounds in England. So it's half again more expensive.
Okay.
Now part of that is that's traditionally what they've done. Part of that is the terrible marketing that Cadillac's doing overseas. Because if you go look at a Toyota, a Lexus, it costs less in the United States than it does in Tokyo.
That's interesting.
Because they subsidize the U.S. cars, and they can charge a higher premium. They're only going to sell so many cars in Japan anyway, so they charge a premium in Japan. But if you look at Cadillac, it costs half again more for a car in the UK, which is ludicrous. And so what Cadillac needs to be doing is the same thing everybody else manages to do, is sell the cars overseas at the same price or lower than they sell them in the United States. Now, I don't even know how they do that or why it makes sense to manufacture a car in Japan, ship it to the United States, and still manage to sell it for less than you would sell it in Japan.
Is labor cost that much difference over there?
But just the shipping cost has to add something, right?
Right.
Like I don't see a $2,500 bill on my Honda invoice. You know, you see the same $695 bill to get it from the coast as you do with the GM cars, but you don't see the other, how did it get here from Nagasaki? Or from the jet. Now, a great number of all marks of cars are made in the United States these days for that very reason, because their sales over here are so high, and they want to pay their suppliers in dollars, because that takes currency exchange out of the equation, right? Right. And so they've done very well with setting up plants in Alabama and Tennessee where people were hungry for jobs, and managed to keep the unions out of the plant so far. Just like all the BMW is making all their Z3s in the world in South Carolina for a while. And so the Z3s and the Z4s would be made there in the plant in South Carolina and shipped back to Europe.
That makes no sense.
Auto manufacturing plants are non-union?
Most of the imported auto manufacturing plants are non-union.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they could be unionized, but they've managed to avoid that somehow. And so
I remember that was a big deal when Toyota first started.
Yeah.
Where was that? In Mississippi or Alabama? One of the southern states.
And that's a big deal, because the UAW does have quite a bit of bargaining strength with Ford and GM, and I suppose still with Chrysler, and they will negotiate one package and then try and impose it on the other two manufacturers. And so there's still a significant competitive difference between what the U.S. manufacturers are paying in the union shops and what the imports are paying in the non-union shops.
And I'm sure it's the same with the plants in Mexico too.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an advantage in Mexico. I don't know what to think about the plants in Mexico. I know people complain about jobs going over the border, but I have kind of mixed feelings there. That first of all, the Mexicans need jobs too, and you know,
Get them.
Pardon?
A lot of them come to America to get them.
Yeah. So they got to go somewhere for a job, but so I don't know what you do on that topic.
I'm saying the labor difference for the union. It's got to be equivalent to producing a car in Mexico, and with the exchange rate too. That probably has a big play into it.
I think so. So I like seeing all of the Cadillacs are right now a lot of the Cadillacs are coming out of Lansing Grand River. The ELR's coming out of Hamtramck. The Escalade's coming out of the truck factory here in the DFW area at Arlington. I like that situation. For my money, I like having the Cadillacs come from Detroit. Lansing's a suburb of Detroit, from Arlington at the truck factory, from Hamtramck, which was traditionally the Cadillac factory. Cadillac linked a picture today from their Clark Street factory in Detroit when the Cadillac factory was at Clark Street, which was fun to see that history. But I like the current situation where a lot of the Cadillacs are coming from.
A few weeks ago, I was driving on the highway in Arizona. I went from LA back to Phoenix, and I had a camouflage Cadillac go past me. It must have been coming from the GM Proving Grounds or whatever, because that's where they are.
So where's the pictures?
Yeah, I couldn't even. The camera was in the trunk. I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
I can't believe that.
But even after looking at all of these things, I have no idea what it could have been. And you think I would be able to, being a
connoisseur, that you would know, right?
Yeah, but the funny thing about it is it had the Cadillac badges on it, but the rear taillights were as if it was a Buick or a Chevy. It wasn't the typical Cadillac taillights. So they were really trying to throw people off. It was small like an ATS, but long. So I don't know. I know that they've been looking at longer ATSs for the China market.
Yeah, there's an ATS-L in China, in the Chinese market, yeah.
That's the only thing that I could figure it was, but I want to say it was an ATS-V-L, because I was cruising along at a happy pace, let's put it that way. And this went past me like I was standing still.
Now, what you may have seen is the missing CT3. So this was our chance for you to catch the unicorn of cars, the CT3V, on the highway, and you didn't have your camera in the right position, and you didn't have a dash cam running. Why wouldn't you have a dash cam?
I didn't even pull out my cell phone to take a picture. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next thing I want to add is a dash cam. Have you guys looked at dash cams?
No. I've been doing a lot of periscoping lately with my phone and my iPad, and I can see me periscoping live while I'm driving.
Tell me about that. I don't understand.
Periscope is live streaming. So just like our Google Hangout.
Yes.
It's the same thing, but it's in live real time for everybody.
But it's over a cell connection?
Yes, over a cell connection.
So how many bytes does that cost you from the phone company?
Well, my iPad,
my rich friend Vinny.
My bill from my iPad is rather a lot of storage. Let's put it that way, because I'm constantly using data from the iPad cell phone. But yeah, I could definitely see people doing that.
So send us or tweet out your Periscope address. I'll have to learn about that.
It's owned by Twitter. So if you have a Twitter, you also have a Periscope account. I think that's the way it works. I have
a Twitter,
right.
But I haven't seen any of your Periscope reports.
Yeah, they're on my main.
And I follow you on Twitter, so somehow they're not bubbling up.
Yeah, I think you follow my Caddy Chat one. I have it hooked up to my Video Hair Twitter. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not good enough friends with you to get the inside line.
Well, I don't want you to be friends with all 27 of my Twitter accounts, so I'm keeping it easy.
Yeah, I have trouble following one Twitter account because by the time you get, all these, my mainstream updates before I can even read it.
Mm-hmm.
So, now I do just search streams.
So, Vinny, what do you do with this while you're in the car driving? What's the use for it?
Well, from what I'm seeing, a lot of people are like showing the road to people in different countries. So there's people in the room from New Zealand who never saw New York or something like that, and they're leaving comments. Oh, it's so beautiful. Switch over to the right lane, left lane. I can see people doing that, but they're able to type comments on the screen as you're driving. So you really have to experience a Periscope once just to see what it's like. I'll throw one in your timeline, Bruce. This way you can see it.
Oh, good.
I was over today actually filming in Rockaway Beach, along the beach, live periscoping. So.
Oh, fun.
So, Bruce, you'll get that on the forum so I can check it out.
I will. I'll embed it in after tonight's chat.
The thing is, with Periscope, it's only live for 24 hours. Then it disappears.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's live streaming, and you got to be quick to watch it. Otherwise, you're not going to see it. So.
And is there a way to pick it up and save it off, or you're just...
There's a way to save it if you're on your iPad, and you can upload it to YouTube from there.
Oh, yeah, but not from Periscope.
Not from Periscope, no.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it pop up on my thing yet, but yeah, we'll try and get it shared out where everybody can see it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I need a dash cam in each of my cars, especially for cross-country travel. That I was driving. Luckily, I didn't take the convertible yesterday, but the car ahead of me hit what luckily turned out to be a piece of cardboard in the road. But the way the truck ran over the cardboard and then it flew up and grazed the top of my SDSV, right, and just went right over my head that way. So, but I was really happy I wasn't in the convertible when this cardboard flew up and landed on the top of the car. So, but that would have made an interesting dash cam if I'd had the dash cam running then, right, so that you'd have this scary moment.
I think just for insurance purposes, it's a good idea to have.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I watched one of them plastic bedliners lift up out of a pickup one time out on 4-lane interstate.
Wow.
Didn't land on anybody. It went over in a ditch and landed safely.
Yeah, but there's lots of things I've seen happen on the road. Like I saw a car lose its wheel and the wheel go bouncing across the median. I saw a truck carrying cinder blocks come around a corner just as I was in the middle of the corner, and the cinder blocks were falling off toward my car, if you see what I mean. So that as they went around the corner too fast, and the cinder blocks were coming inside the corner as the truck went around the outside of the corner, and so they were falling down, and luckily missed my car, but it was very narrow. But I would have liked to have had a video of that forever, and it would have been hard for the dash cam to catch it. But yeah, my son is at the uniform store there. We're looking at moving into body cameras because police security, now it's nice for everybody to have a body camera. But that's some of the same companies that sell body cameras also sell dash cams. That's kind of the same thing. So I'm hoping that one of those sources I can end up with something that I can test out for dash cam. Or now that I updated my phone to a different phone, and one of the things people were pointing out is you could actually just take an old phone and turn it into a dash cam. There's software you can get that to add onto the phone, and you get a mount and just put it in your car and go. But I'd like, the nice thing about there it is. I got an alert that you had sent. But of course, if you get a custom done dash cam, the nice thing is that it ended 5 hours ago.
Right. So
you're only to Rockaway Beach.
Right. So you look at it after the broadcast, and you'll see what it's all about.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is in the CaddyInfo conversation link for tonight, I'm going to embed this tweet that Vinny just sent that has the link to the Periscope. And so for those of you playing at home, if you go to tonight's conversation chat, then you can find, of course, this video that you're watching, and you can find the link to the Periscope that Vinny did of traveling. Now, as Vinny said, it's only good for 24 hours or 7 minutes or something, and so go look at it. Go look at it tonight, otherwise it's gone forever.
What's going to be good about Periscope, Bruce, for me, especially the car shows, I can walk around the car show floor and you can talk to me. You can hear me talking to you, and you can ask me questions. Hey, go look at the trunk. Go look at this. Give me a close-up picture of that.
Now, we could do that with Google Plus Hangouts, right? And they last forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could set up a Hangout. You could be at the car show on your iPad.
Right. We'd have to coordinate.
Walk around the show. We'd have to plan ahead.
Right.
But the nice thing about that is it would just save off to YouTube, and you'd have it forever.
Right.
Now, the bad thing is you'd have an hour and a half of, I was behind this guy and I couldn't see the car. But, and I guess, so the joy of Periscope, though, is that they're minimizing it enough to fit in a Twitter stream, right? That is optimized for Twitter.
It's optimized for Twitter now. They're going to change it where you can flip the thing sideways, and it'll be...
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that a Google Hangout, we would have to coordinate. We'd have 10 people in the room, let's say, just us. At the car show, if I did it on Periscope, I would have everybody in the world being able to comment.
Well, the way you do that on Hangouts is that if they were watching on YouTube or on the event page, they can comment there, and it shows up here in the Hangout.
Okay.
So, like, I keep the Q&A open, and so if somebody asked a question or made a comment, then it would show up here in the Hangout, and then we could relate. But I'm not saying.
No.
I don't know Periscope at all, and so.
You'll see it. The comments are actually on the screen.
But the joy is that it's streaming, and so you could stream a whole. It lets everybody be there live with you, right? Is the joy.
Yes.
And so you don't have to worry about storage. The intent is really that other people suddenly have a view into your world.
Right. And if there was something important that I wanted to do, I have my stuff set up to automatically save to my iPad, so I could upload that to YouTube if I wanted to.
Yeah, to follow or edit it and update, which is what they do a live dealer talk show on YouTube. That I started watching last week and trying to understand, more about the dealer world. But when I went to look at today's show, the first 20 minutes of it is the title page.
Lovely.
And then they actually start the video like 21 minutes into it or something. So I'll go back and send them a note. I didn't have time before the show. But see, there's a prime reason why you might want to edit the video before you upload it to YouTube, right?
Exactly.
Just to look and see what have you captured. And so like with your Periscope, you might capture 60 minutes, edit it down to the crucial 10 minutes where you were looking at the new Silver Spur or something, and then save that up to YouTube as you might get 7 articles out of it, right?
Right. Very good.
Because you cut this one into this car, and this one into this car, and this one into this car, and so on.
Which is what I normally do with the camera anyway, but this is be live.
Okay, so if you're watching at home and you have a Cadillac near Arizona that would suit Vinny to drive cross country to New York, phone in now.
Right, exactly.
Please note in the CaddyInfo comments. Please go to the CaddyInfo comments and let us know, and we'll get your information to Vinny. So he's looking for something that will hold a lot of stuff. Maybe is there a particular year of Escalade that's better or worse?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking older because I'm going to run it, across country.
Oh, well, there's 2 things I would want. One is the Escalade Hybrid. There actually is an Escalade Hybrid out there. It'll go up to 45 miles an hour on battery power, which I want to take that challenge. I want to try and drive to the Dairy Queen only on batteries in my Escalade.
Yeah.
Now, the other one is the Escalade Platinum. The Platinums of any year have extra touches, like air-conditioned cup holders, or, cold cup holders.
In Arizona, you need that, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Well, you're in Texas where it's hot, so.
No, and I go for work sometimes to Arizona, and Arizona is the one place where when you get out of your car in the parking lot, I wondered if I was going to live to get into the building.
Right.
You know, there was an issue there.
My daughter sent a picture of her thermometer in her car, 116 the other day. She's in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was that when she first got in the car, or that was steady state?
No, that was the temperature outside.
Yeah, the external. That's when she was driving.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good for superchargers.
No. The one thing I learned in Arizona is the batteries go fast because the battery's constantly under heat, even if it's parked in even if it's in your garage. They give an 18-month warranty on the batteries, where everywhere else in the country is like 3 years or 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. So it's 18 months if you're lucky, but so far I've changed about 5 batteries so far between the daughter-in-law's car and our car. So.
Wow.
And it just goes. There's no no warning. It's like all of a sudden, time to go get a battery. It's like you should buy each other's batteries for Christmas. You know? At least you know it's every year you get a new battery.
Well, it sounds like you got to take it back at 15 months.
Yeah, exactly. You got to mark it on your calendar. You know.
That way it stays under warranty all the time, right?
Yeah.
Well, you need to drive out of state to buy your battery and then come back.
Yeah, but it's still. But then how are you going to get back to the state to refund your battery? You're going to have to buy a battery to do that.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe not an Escalade hybrid then if you're going to have it in Arizona, because it has great big batteries in it. So.
Yeah, I don't need any big expensive thing. I'm looking for an older model actually.
Now, what about that first generation SRX though? The big tall station wagon version. That would be
that also 2004.
That would be at a good price point. It would have plenty of room for dogs, and you could carry stuff back and forth and get that with the North Star V8 in it.
And worst comes to worst, I can add a tow package to that.
Yeah.
If I need to tow a trailer, which I'm probably going to have to do when I move out of Arizona.
But I would think it would do well with towing. Now, if you know you're going to tow, I would get an Escalade. Well, the Escalade is going to have more towing rating than anything else.
Well, it'll be a one-time deal. So, and I'm not looking to tow a big thing, probably just a little.
I find once you start towing, it's not a one-time deal.
Yeah.
and in fact, I'm thinking I need to sell my tow vehicle in order to eliminate the possibility of towing. So. But yeah, I found that we use our tow vehicle quite a bit. But yeah, that was to tell the long version of that story. So my late father had sent me this replica of a '39 Jaguar 2 years ago, and so I was restoring it, but I sold it because it was a replica and it wasn't a Cadillac, and then part of that money and another stack of money went into the XLR. And so I snuck in the third car. My wife had said you can't have a third car unless you buy a bigger house with a bigger garage. But she couldn't say no because the Roadster from my dad. And then when I saw the Roadster from my dad, I got the XLR and kind of snuck it in under the rule of you can't have another car. So, but she's a big fan of the convertible, so. And it's a good-looking car and so on. And today is our 32nd wedding anniversary, so I'm getting remarks from the wife. So
congratulations to you and her.
Thank you very much, and all to the same girl. So very exciting. So what other Cadillac news do you guys know?
One thing I was going to bring up, I'm seeing a lot of posts about the ATS overheating. It was strange the way this came about. Somebody tweeted at me that their ATS was like almost redlining overheating when they were in the car wash, and that doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever, right? And then a second person said, "Yeah, that happened to me," and I'm noticing a pattern, and there's probably been about almost 10, I would say, of ATSs in random years where they're overheating. But the problem is solved if you fill up the coolant to the top level, so it doesn't like the coolant being anything below the top level, from what I hear. So
how would that cause it to overheat?
I don't know. I really haven't figured it out. This is just something that people have been throwing at me for the last 2 days, so I haven't investigated any further. But Out of the 10 people, 4 people have said that solved their problem. So it makes no sense.
Because when you say fill up the coolant, what you're doing is adding fluid to the coolant reservoir.
Right.
You know, unless you're out of coolant, then there's always fluid in the reservoir.
Does it have some sort of vacuum system or something in there? I don't know.
So so let's accept for a moment that that's working, that it's overheating unless it's totally full of coolant.
But the guy said as soon as they started driving it, it started cooling off again out of the car wash.
Yeah, see, that suggests that his fans aren't coming on. If you're overheating at idle and it's doing fine on the road, then your fans, the radiator fans, aren't coming on.
Interesting.
That's a different problem. But if the fans are working properly and the car's overheating but it's not low on coolant, but it's not completely full, and then when you fill it completely full of coolant, it doesn't overheat, what would that mean?
I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence that these cars were low on fluid. I don't know, but
well, if it was actually low on fluid, then that's the problem.
Yeah.
But if it had air in the system, then that's a problem. But he's not saying, other stories about how did it get air in the system.
Right. Like I said, it's all new. It's all new to me, so I haven't really investigated it. I just wanted to throw it out there in case any.
Now, was this with the 3.6 liter or the 2-liter turbo?
Don't know.
Or the 2.5?
None of the threads mentioned any of the engine sizes.
And none of these cars are due for coolant for 100,000 miles.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah.
I'd have to hear more. What?
You have an ATS, right?
Yeah, we have the ATS Premium 2-liter turbo from 2013, but I haven't seen any notices or anything about the ATS is overheating, and I haven't seen any, technical service bulletins about keep it full of coolant.
Right.
But I am not a denier. So if you're having this problem out there, tell us about it on CaddyInfo. Tell Vinny more about it on Cadillac Country Club, and let's get more discussion so we can understand what you're saying. Yeah, what the heck's happening? One of my favorite stories, I was talking to one of the Cadillac engineers, and he said, I wanted you to know that we solved one of the North Star engine problems because of post on CaddyInfo.
Cool.
And I said, tell me more about that. And he said, well, because there was a problem with, he had seen a post about the dipsticks not doing right, and what it turned out was when they were moving the North Star engines, the rack that they were stacking the engines up had broken, and they didn't detect that it had broken, and it was crimping the dipsticks.
Oh, lovely.
And so they were able to track that back because of posts that they'd seen in the forum.
That's what I'm saying. With the ATS, it might be something as simple as that.
Yeah. And so if you are seeing an issue with your ATS overheating, first of all, tell your dealer about it, and so that Cadillac finds out that way. But if you're not getting satisfaction from your dealer, then post about it in the forums and let the rest of us armchair quarterback what your problem might be, because I love these sort of subtle issues where what you're describing should not be the case. So if it is the case, then what else are we missing here for, either there's an air leak into the system and the air's expanding and when it's hot, which is causing, so there's more story there that I would love to hear.
Yeah. I'll keep you informed if these people keep hitting me up. I'll find out engine sizes and years and stuff.
Exactly. We need details. And especially if, as soon as they got out of the car wash, it stopped overheating. To me, that's, no kidding, that's a straight engine fan problem. Right. Because if as soon as you get moving, you get airflow across the radiator. But overheating while you would think the car wash would cool the radiator. So, speaking of which, I still would I want a cooling system for my intercooler coolant tank. I still want some sort of cooling.
The chiller.
Yeah, I want the chiller. I need to take my SCSV down to Tampa and leave it to let that guy, if he's still in the business, and let him design an SCSV chiller system. And Vinny, this is a system that uses the coolant, the refrigerant from the air conditioner system in a liquid-to-liquid intercooler with the coolant from the intercooler. And so that you get your, like right now, it's 105-degree air temperature, but that's the cooling air for the coolant from my supercharger, right? It's 105 degrees. And so, of course, the supercharger is getting heated to 30 degrees hotter, and it's depending on the 105-degree air to cool it.
Right.
So if I could pump some 45-degree fluid through there instead of 105-degree fluid, it would do much better.
Sure.
But the other thing I was kicking myself about is, you know, the intercooler is actually, the intercooler cooling system is actually has all the elements of an air conditioning system, except it doesn't have an evaporator and it doesn't have a compressor. So really, but you have the main elements there. You have your heat source. You have a condenser. You know, you have your cooling source. So what you really need is to put the rest of the air conditioning system in and run and turn, you know, have a separate air conditioning system just for the intercooler.
A bucket of dry ice around the supercharger intake.
This is what the truck guys do, right? Is they actually run a big bucket, a big tank for their intercooler coolant reservoir. They run huge pumps, and they pump from this 10-gallon tank in the back of the truck to the intercooler coolant, and then they stuff ice in the tank when they want to go to the quarter-mile drag strip. And so they're literally putting ice water through their intercooler in order to go run the quarter mile. Now there's trade-offs there because 10 gallons of water in the coolant tank is another 60 pounds. And so you're going to lose you're using up so many horsepower to generate horsepower.
What are they using to cool the NASCAR engines down? Have you seen that? NASCAR plugs
miles an hour. That's what they're using. They have to close off the vents to keep it from cooling too fast.
No, seriously. During qualifying, if you don't qualify fast enough, they bring you into pit road and they plug you in, and they're changing the coolant system.
Wow.
And it's some sort of ice trade-off.
Now I actually did consider that also.
It looks like a battery charger, a big battery charger that they roll out with hoses.
That fitting, because this was the old story about to start an early Bugatti, what they wanted you to do was you drain the oil out and you put it on the oven. You know, you put it in a pan on the oven, you heat it up, you put it back in the car, and drain the coolant out, put it in a pan in the oven, heat it up, put it back in the car, and then the car would start, even in cold weather. And so that got me to thinking, well, so the intercooler system kind of works that way, that I could rig an in and out connection to where whenever I really wanted to go do testing on a hot day, go do 100% transfusion of cool coolant, right, into the intercooler system, and then head out to do my tests.
Or you get a different hood.
Yeah.
With a big scowl in there and put a big long bucket of ice in the hood itself. And let
People do that. People do that. They get a sack of ice and put it right on top of the intercooler and cool off the intercooler that way at the racetrack, right? But there's some thermodynamic shock issues.
I'm sure.
Some thermodynamic shock issues there. Now the using the air conditioning coolant is actually is actually one of the concepts that the people who make the tubes that go in the intercooler in our cars recommend. That's what they talk about at Laminova. It's a Swedish company that makes those Laminova tubes. As they say, if you really want the supercharger to work great, put air conditioned fluid through there. But
you get Freon spray and spray the heck out of it before you go out there.
I think the simple thing here would be to take the water hose. You know, I have this. I may have made it worse because I put a 1-gallon aluminum tank in the nose so that I have another gallon of coolant in the system. But on a hot day, that probably gets sun. That is maybe heating my coolant water up even further. And so before the test, I should be running the water hose and cooling that tank off to you know, to 100 degrees.
Swap it up, put ice in that one instead.
Yeah, well, this one doesn't have a big container on it where you could stick that in, but yeah, that would be the way to go, is make it where I could transfuse ice water into that container, or, you know, pump pressurized fluid into that and then let it come out the reservoir in the engine compartment. So
that guy in Florida that does that, does he just divert your air conditioning system to the intercooler, or put a whole nother air conditioner on it, or what's the deal down there?
He puts a heat exchanger, a water-to-water heat exchanger between the refrigerant from the air conditioning system and the coolant from the intercooler, and then he bypasses, when you're on that system, he bypasses the heat exchanger in the front of the car, in the nose of the car, and actually uses the air conditioning heat exchanger as a heat exchanger for the coolant instead. And so during that time, the refrigerant from the air conditioner takes on the heat load of the coolant from the intercooler system, and so it takes that heat away, rapidly reduces the temperature of the intercooler coolant, which helps with the intercooler efficiency. What he's not doing is he's not sending the refrigerant directly through the intercooler. He's sending the refrigerant to a water-to-water heat exchanger and then bringing the intercooler coolant through that heat exchanger.
That's all under the hood.
Yeah, it's all under the hood. And then there's a switch that so you can turn it off, or you can kind of half divert it, you know, have it half load, half this load and half that load, or have it only air conditioning. Only air conditioning, no air conditioning, all the cooling going to the intercooler, or half and half.
Right.
And then he puts a bigger reservoir than his stock. You know, part of the thing that Cadillac did for the trade-off on the LC3 and on the LSA and the LS9 was they have very low capacity, like 5 quarts of intercooler coolant, 3 quarts of intercooler coolant. And the advantage to that is the more coolant you have, the more buffer you have. So if you want the coolant to rapidly cool down, you have as little of it as possible, so that when you hit the highway and you have good airflow across the heat exchanger for the intercooler, then it rapidly cools it down. But if you want more time buffer, then you have more fluid in the system, so that if you're running a quarter mile, you don't get one complete circuit of fluid through the intercooler system before you've hit the quarter mile. You know, you're going to have the coolant that you've got, and so the best way to keep a constant quarter mile time is to have enough fluid in the system, enough fluid capacity in the system, that you're always getting cold fluid to the intercooler during the quarter mile. Now, the other problem is our engines, the LC3, like in Mike's XLRV and my SCSV, runs the Laminova tubes in serial. It goes in across 2 tubes and then out across 2 tubes. And so you have the second set's getting hotter water, if you see what I mean. So you get cold water in across 2 tubes, but then that water turns around and goes back across the other 2 tubes. And so the other shortcut is if you brought the water in and had the cold water go across all 4 tubes, then it would present cooler water to the intercooler. The other thing apparently is you can index the Laminova tubes. There's one rotation of the tubes that allows more airflow past them. That's advantageous to, you know, some small degree. But I don't know how you keep them in place, because they're the way the endpoints work on them. They're round with gaskets and then press fit. And so if you did index them, I don't know how you ever ensure that they stay indexed.
Sounds like a lot of work for a good speed for a quarter mile.
For a few horsepower.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have sturdily left that alone. I have another supercharger sitting on the shelf, and I always thought, you know, I'll go take the other supercharger and have it, modify, put another pulley on it, do some other things, and then just bolt it in place to make downtime for the car simple. But I haven't got that done. Now I finally figured out, because I was doing almost daily tests in the STSV, and I was tuning it and doing live test run, where I modify the timing and then run a test run and post articles about it and so on. And then suddenly all that stopped. And so I was kind of, as I started doing tests on the XLR, I was kind of looking back at that and saying, well, all these articles kind of came to a point right here in June 2013, and then nothing. Because, you don't look at something in 2 years, so I'm kind of educating myself back and learning how to do, what was my thought process. I'm reading my own articles to understand, to catch back up to where I was 2 years ago. And what it was is, in June of 2013, this Roadster arrived from my dad's house. And so suddenly that became all-consuming for my car hobby. All the focus went to it, as I got it running and got the carburetor to do better and got the, as I started to get the suspension straightened out. So as I did all this work on that, then those articles started up and the tuning articles, stopped. And so now, hopefully, I'm spending, the XLR's got me interested back in the things I was doing with the STSV, and looking
back even further.
Yeah. Now I'm getting back up to speed with the mods I was doing with the STSV, because I had made some more power from the tuning, and so now I want to go back and kind of pull that string a little further to see, what else can be done there. So, okay, guys, I have kept you over an hour now. Even poor Mike that showed up late.
Your wife's not going to be happy.
Well, yeah, we've already been out for dinner for anniversary, but yeah, I'll go check in with her. Any last words of wisdom to share with our audience?
I got nothing.
If you want to catch Vinny, look somewhere in between. Follow his Periscope for his adventures in between Arizona and New York. Mike's going to have some articles coming up about how to repair your XLR-V trunk when it won't close. And so watch that on XLR-net and on CaddyInfo.com. Thanks for being on, guys. It was good to see you. Any last words, Mike?
No.
And Cadillac Jim, we're sorry we missed you tonight. Texas Jim, we still miss you. Hope you'll come back around. Hope things are going okay there. Our friend Body by Fisher, he's never gotten on the video, but I do see him on Facebook sometimes, and hopefully he'll pop back in. He's still restoring his ETC that he picked up a while back. And good to see Vinny on. Welcome back, Vinny, and hopefully you'll be on every time you're available. I totally understand if you're running around and doing things, but I'm glad you're getting the notes. Tim Carroll, holler at me. I sent you an email, so if you see this note, holler at me and let's talk, because I want to do an article about headers for the XLR, and so I want to talk about things that are available and what you've been up to, and see if we can sort something out. Guys, I'm going to hit stop broadcast. What's going to happen is we'll wrap up the live broadcast, and then hold on just a second, and we'll be on. This is the CaddyInfo.com Cadillac Conversations. We do this on Thursday nights. If you want to be on with us, it's really cheap and it's easy, and I can teach you, and it doesn't cost anything. And once you get your gear set up, you don't actually have to have video. You can participate in other ways, and just circle me on Google Plus and let me know that that's what you want to do, and we'll get you hooked up.